So now that we are in the first quarter of the 21st century, has expired, and we are very much in a service sector driven society rather than a project centric driven society like it was 40, 50 years ago. I was contemplating on how, you know, the male masculinity has changed since then. Obviously, now because we live in a service sector dominated society, skills such as communication, interpersonal relationships have become more important than they ever were for a man to be able to effectively work in a service sector job. Whether it's supermarket, call center, barbering, or in civil service jobs. I mean, all these industries now require somebody by even if somebody who's not naturally friendly to harness those behaviors in order to kind of build trusting and relationship with customers and colleagues, and maybe people who don't have these tendencies or are unable to harness them are going to struggle to kind of have many work options. I was wondering if because now image counts more for the man as much as the woman, whether men have become in a way more effeminate rather than more emotionally like hardened before and less sensitive to maybe criticism. Now because they have to engage with people on a more regular basis in most jobs, where you have to have more more that sense that you have to be more like a what was characteristically considered effeminate traits such as empathy, compassion, caring, attitude towards others. And I'm wondering if that is something that men are naturally good at. Are we naturally developed to be like this, to be able to work in sectors that require us to pretty much almost develop these what has been historically associated to the female gender, all these soft skills that require somebody to be sensitive to other people's emotions. Whilst in the past, other men maybe they didn't have to think about developing those skills because it was a product oriented society. So most men would be stuck in a warehouse and they didn't have to engage with a lot of people, so they could essentially behave as they wished, without having to have this self-conscious attitude of how they would be perceived by others. And I was wondering if that's a good thing for men, or is this the reason why a lot of men have developed anxieties and depression because of being constantly observed and judged on how you behave as a person rather than what you do, what you're good at, how you do it, from like being able to, for example, make things or fix things. And obviously there are some men who are employed in these old-fashioned, more traditional work industry, but a lot of men now, especially graduates, they have to have, by default, they almost have to develop these people skills if they want to have a successful career progression. And I'm wondering, have men changed? Have they become more, softer, less able to stand up for themselves, less resilient, and less confident in who they are because they always have to think of how they come across in order to impress others, in order to make a good impression, as they are in regards to how they behave and how they act as a person, rather than what they're good at and what they can produce. For me, in my opinion, most men now, it's almost like they become, true. They try too hard now to become so nice and people pleasing that it's almost difficult to distinguish them each other. It's almost like it's difficult to distinguish between male behavior to female natural behaviors, because everybody is encouraged to behave themselves the same way. And yeah, I'm wondering if this has been a positive progression in an evolution in society. But let me know what you think.